Hey, what's up, people? This is your boy Gary A. Swaby, and we're doing a House of Cards Season 5 review show right here. And I'm here with the editor-in-chief, Mr. Richard Bailey. What's up, Rich?
What's up, Gary? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show.
Yep. And I'm also here with Miss Dana Abercrombie. I hope I said that correctly.
Yes, thank you for not butchering my name.
You're welcome. Cool. So yeah, we've all seen House of Cards season 5. Netflix was gracious enough to send us the show early. So yeah, we got to see it and we have a lot to say about it. Now, this show is actually going to be split in two halves. So those of you who haven't watched the entire season yet, our first half will be completely non-spoilers. So we'll just give a brief overview of our thoughts on the show and everything. And then the second half, we're going to get down to the nitty gritty and, we're going to talk spoilers and story points, plot points and everything. So yeah, we'll start with the non-spoiler section first. So the first question I had for you guys was, did you notice any changing quality with the show this season? Because they did change the lead writers, I believe. The main guy behind House of Cards actually left. So this is the first season with the new show producers and stuff, Melissa James Gibson and Frank Polisi, I think. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name. But yeah, did you guys notice like any kind of shift in quality in terms of how the show was presented and the writing of the show at all? Go to you first, Dana.
I thought that it really didn't change that much. I thought that the writing kind of got a little bit better. The storyline was a little less boring. I do say that the one time when I noticed that there might have been a shift was that it started out a little slower compared to previous seasons. But for me, I still thought it was very strong. It was very good writing. They got a very good grip of the characters, and it felt like they spent a very long time discussing and understanding each character in each scene from the previous season, so there wouldn't be that weird janky overlap.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the it's starting off slow at first. Like the first two episodes, I was almost a bit lost. And also like I had difficulty recalling some of the things that happened in the previous season as well. Like there were a few little tidbits that I kind of forgot. So and we didn't get a recap with with the review show or anything. So yeah, it was hard for me to recall certain things. But yeah, it did start off a bit slower, but I feel like overall it was the plot was a lot tighter than usual. There wasn't too much straying away from like the main points and stuff because I feel like in the previous seasons there were always like a few episodes sprinkled around that were kind of like they would go somewhere else kind of thing, like away from the main plot. But that didn't happen too much in this season, so it was very focused, I think. What did you think, Rich?
Well, I certainly do agree that the it definitely did start out slow in the very beginning, but I have to say, by and far, my personal opinion, I think this season is way better than last season because it is more character driven, more focused on the actual Underwoods themselves. And I think that we needed that because, last season there was a lot of back and forth with a lot of different things going on. They introduced a couple of new characters. So it was too much to throw at the viewer for them to try to understand everything. But after they have established some characters from last season, they had them come back for this season, then, you got to see a deeper look into the way that they operate, so on and so forth. But I definitely think the writing was better than last season, hands down. And even, because I was one of the people that was worried when I knew that the original writer was leaving. I figured, okay, well, this show was going to be a disaster. But no, I was proven wrong. the actors and the actresses all did an excellent job, and the writing was on point. So I give them props on that.
Yep. So yeah, that was definitely very reassuring that, you know, the show didn't get worse or anything. So that was definitely a good thing. But what do you guys think of the overall pace of the show? So I mean, we already talked about it kind of starting slow a bit, but like I'm talking about the speed in which you know, certain plot points start to unravel. And do you feel like there's any parts besides, you know, the first two episodes, like do you feel like there's any parts like in the middle or towards the end where things kind of slow down, or you know, the pace kind of shifts or anything? Or do you feel like it was pretty consistent after those first two episodes? What do you think, Dana?
I thought that the pacing, once you get past the first two episodes, it flowed, and everything, you just wanted more and more. And I don't think that it was as quick as some people may have wanted it to be. For me, I like to savor each scene in each episode, and that just goes in part by how well the acting is. When you look at Kevin Spacey and especially Robin Wright, so dynamic in their acting that I want those slow type of buildups. And then once you get everything and you figure out what's going on, it takes a while for it all to just sink in. So when you go, like, say, for example, like an Aaron Sorkin type of script where everything's boom, 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 and all over the place, you kind of lose what's going on. With here, I can savor all the moments. I loved every single thing when it came to the writing and the pacing. So it worked really well, especially with a political drama that is as complicated as this. So I loved everything about it.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, I did I kind of felt like the campaign went on longer than I was expecting it to, but like I understand why in the end, you know. But like when you think that this whole campaign thing kind of started in the last season, I was like, wow, I was surprised that it was actually going on for so long, kind of thing. But yeah, it wasn't an issue or anything because they maintained the excitement of it, like, and it was interesting all throughout. So I didn't really have a problem with it at all.
But that was kind of reflective of, if you look at the campaign season that we had. It, for me, it felt like it dragged on and on and on. It's like almost 16 months or so of that. And for them to put that into a tiny portion of the seasons that I mean, of the episodes that they had, to me, I thought they did a really good job
Oh
reflecting
yeah,
that
and
kind of, because the campaign season is not exactly quick and done. There are surprises and
yeah,
different elements that come about. And I thought it was reflective of what happens in the real world.
yeah. I mean, hey, at least we didn't have to put up with Trump on this season. So yeah, I mean,
Well,
can't complain.
there were some moments.
But how about you, Rich? What did you think of the pacing?
So here's the thing. I thought the pacing was good as well. I do agree with you both for the most part about, you know, after the first two episodes, it felt like it picked up. The one criticism I would have made is that, you know, I do know that I initially thought coming into this season, because I knew they were going to try to draw this thing out. I figured that the whole campaign thing was going to last the entire season, and then at the end of the season would be when you would figure out the results. And while some of that is true, which we will get into in a little bit, I just think, you know, I did expect it to be long, but I expected them to draw things out. I know they had instances where it jumped forward in time because of certain things that happened. And I'm glad that they referenced that, because no one would know any of that if it wasn't referenced and we didn't get the whole introduction to show you, oh yes, so now we're further away from the campaign election time. So I appreciated that, but definitely people need to pay attention, you know, if they're watching, because if they decided to leave the room to grab a snack or something, they would have completely missed that we are already ahead of where we were in a previous episode. So, but with that said, I still thought the pacing was great. I know they had to progress the storyline forward. So you needed to pass some time to show how all the characters were impacted by what happened. So I'm totally fine with that.
Cool. And how about like the overall acting, you know, the actors on the show and everything? Like, are we impressed with everyone? Did everyone do a good job? Go ahead, Dana.
Me, oh God, this show is my everything. I love the acting. I think Kevin Spacey was born to play this, and you got to see Robin Wright really showcase all of her emotions, especially during this season. But if you look at the overall arc, I think you just get to see how what would be the appropriate term? How not vindictive, but very tactical she is. And because of that, I think that she was able to take this character, show all of the different dimensions of it, and still make us hate her while also drawing sympathy out of us. I think the acting was, even if you look at the smaller cast members, everyone worked together. And I felt like either the communication was really strong, they really knew their characters in and out, and it was able to make this show more impressive than the previous seasons. So the acting was phenomenal, dynamic, and it's the reason why they have Emmys. It's deserving of everything.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, yeah, they did an excellent job, especially you know, the main two actors. They did a
They feed off of each other
phenomenal
so
job.
well.
Yeah,
Kind of like that
definitely.
parasitic relationship that they have with each other. They can't leave each other alone, yet they need each other, and they can't. It's like this disgust love hate thing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. How do you feel about it, Rich?
Yeah, I mean, I think Dana pretty much summed it up. Phenomenal acting across the board. Kevin Spacey, again, as I said, previously, when you're going into this season and you hear about the changes being made to the show, you would definitely go in a little bit concerned. But again, you have to realize the people who actually perform on this show, the actors and actresses, they're what make the show fantastic. So when you have the writing in there also that's on point, it's a great combination. Kevin Spacey again played the same role, and a lot of times, just like how Dana mentioned with Robin Wright's character Claire, this is a character who, he is very ruthless in his actions, but you want to see him, and you very much enjoy seeing him being ruthless in how he decides to do certain things, just because you're still rooting for him, even though he is not a good guy. So I think to me that goes to show, yeah, I do believe this is a role that Kevin Spacey was born to play. I do believe that Claire had a major transformation this season. I mean, and when we get into the discussion in the second half, I think it's without a doubt that I think she did a great job in the previous seasons, but I think this season, this had to be her best season, in my opinion, because of the range of emotions and then how the character has completely changed. Because we've already seen bits and pieces of this character taking a dark turn, but there's other things that happen that, just makes it very interesting. So, yeah, I definitely enjoyed the acting. Top notch. This is the reason why everybody needs to watch this show.
Yeah, I did notice there were a few missing characters that that didn't return. I wasn't sure if it was because the story just didn't require them at this specific moment, or if like they are completely cut from the show. And that's basically Remy, his character, Mahershala Ali, that actor, and the woman that he was having a fling with,
Jackie.
and also Jackie, yeah, and also the dude who used to cook for Frank at the restaurant.
Yeah, Freddie.
What was his name?
Freddie.
Yeah, Freddie. That was it.
Freddie. Oh.
Hey, well, and we already know that him and Freddie, they had a falling out.
Yeah,
they fell out.
I don't think Freddie was really needed. Freddie got screwed in his own way.
Yeah, fair enough. But like, what happened to the other two though? Like Jackie and Remy. Like, are they just cut from the show, or were they just not needed?
Well, first, I do want to say, Remy, the actor, this actor won a Grammy recently, or Oscar rather,
Oscar, yeah.
for his performance in Moonlight. So I'm pretty sure that the door is wide open if they want to come back, but he may not be in a position to come back because he already has other projects that he's working on. I mean, they were alluded to later in the season, but you never actually saw them. So I think they did leave that door open. But then again, I don't know because of depending on what happens later, maybe they won't be back. But you never know. I guess this is wide open if they are needed. You know.
Yeah, I guess. Any thoughts on that, Dana?
I don't think Marshall Ali is needed at this moment. I think that with his character, it's not fitting into the season right now. And I think that the focus was mainly on Claire and Frank. And I think that's where it needed to be for this season. I liked how, because of the tight knit of how it was, I really didn't want, it's not that I didn't care. It was just, I was so focused on those two. The show started with those two. And season 5, I think, it was about them, and it was a good bookend right now. So maybe in season 6 we'll go back to them, but it's not needed.
But what did you guys think of like some of the new characters? Like for example, there was that the black guy that he's like a reporter and he gets into the White House to become like the main reporter for the White House or whatever. Like what would you guys think of that actor? Was he good? Good addition?
Yeah. I thought he was. Yeah, I guess he's an okay addition. It had to have someone that came in there that was trying to get some information. You have the other characters like Tom Hammersmith. This is like the older guy. So I guess you had to go a little bit younger and try to get someone else in there because already know the fate of what happened to the last guy that used to work with them last season. So I guess they had to have someone else that came in there. Obviously, I think his role is going to obviously change. It's already starting to change. We'll get into that later. So we'll see what happens with that character. Overall, most of the characters I thought were great. I have to admit there was one character that I found very annoying, and I was surprised that I found this character annoying, and that is, of course, the writer, Tom Yates. This guy is just, I don't know. I can't really say anything yet. I have to save it for the second half of this discussion, but that character to me, just something about that character. I look at this character, looks like a wise ass or something like that. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. But couple characters they introduced. They also introduced this other character that became I guess you could say, a personal trainer of Frank. And
Oh yeah.
what happened with that character, I saw that coming from a mile away, but we'll get into that later. But I thought the new characters were great to a certain extent. I thought they really focused a lot of their attention on, again, the competition as well. And I appreciated that because they showed something else with that character that I didn't really see before as well.
Oh yeah.
But one thing I will say, and I don't really think this is a spoiler, and one thing that really made this season stick for me is because they show just how far people will go when they want something. And that really hit home to really be the main point to emphasize that, someone who you could think is a good person, well, they will do all types of crazy things when they are trying to get something. So I think they succeeded in showing that multiple times, but even more so this year because other characters did stuff you wouldn't think they would ever do. So, yeah, I would say overall great characters. I'm interested to see what happens to some of the other ones, but we'll find out about that.
Cool. Dana, any thoughts on the supporting cast?
I liked some of the characters, and like Richard said, I thought some were annoying, and I think that I need a little bit more in order to see how much they grow into it. I wasn't really feeling the reporter at first. I kind of got like flashbacks of Zoe, who I thought was annoying as all can be. but I think that so far it helped to move this story, and I like what they're going to do with it. Will explain and go into that a little bit later, but overall, I'll say that much.
Cool. Yeah. So I mean, that's really like the furthest we can go without, treading in spoiler territory. But just to wrap up the brief non-spoiler review, what are your final thoughts, your overall thoughts on the season? So Dana, what's your overall summary and thoughts of season 5
Oh,
with no spoilers, of course?
I can hear you.
Sorry.
Can you repeat?
Yeah, we hear.
Can you repeat that?
Oh yeah, I was basically saying, what's your overall thoughts of the season before we
Overall,
get to spoilers?
oh, before the spoilers. Okay, so overall, I
Yeah.
thought this was a very strong season. I loved every single thing about it. It was not perfect at all, but I loved where it was going, and I love what Richard was saying. Also, it shows what people are willing to do for what they want. And I think that is a very basic humanistic thing that's in all of us. And it was very reflective of today's times, especially in the political climate that we're in. And it did touch upon a lot of issues that we're basically is mirroring. Um, I like to see what's going to happen more in season 6. I am in love with Claire. I love everything that is about to happen with her. Frank, as we already know, is very dynamic, and I'm just, these two together is about to either have the biggest downfall that has ever happened or one of the most, and I have no idea who will end up um, surviving their rise or their downfall. And I look forward to the next season. I love this season and everything about it.
Cool. Rich, what's your non-spoiler summary of season 5?
Yeah, so I would say if there is anyone that has any doubts about this season, maybe because you looked into the fact that the original writer is no longer there, definitely don't worry about that. If you are a House of Cards fan, you definitely will love this season. Um, as I said, I personally thought this season was better than last season because it is more focused on the actual characters and the current situation that they're dealing with. Um, so I say it's a must watch to anybody who is a fan of House of Cards. And yeah, the performances were on point. The acting, the writing was good. There is some stuff that is left unresolved, but as you would already expect, I don't know if it's going to get renewed for a sixth season because Netflix has not done that yet. But I'm pretty.
It will be.
Well, say what?
It will be. It will be.
Hey, I will hope so. I will hope so.
Yes.
Yes, it needs to be. It has to be.
Yeah,
So
kind of has to, but yeah.
yeah, definitely. So yeah, anyone that is interested in the show and you've checked out the previous seasons, obviously you owe it to yourself to check out this season. You will not be disappointed. I can assure you that much.
Cool, yeah. And my summary of it, well, I went into this actually thinking this was going to be the last season, to be honest with you, like, because the last season, it ended off with like a big bang in, them basically saying they're going to go to war to kind of, cover up their, everything that's come out about Frank and what they've been doing and stuff. So I thought this was going to be like, one hell of a crazy season and it would end off everything, but like, they managed to keep up the suspense and mystique, and I want more now. The season left me wanting a lot more House of Cards. Definitely, a well put together season in my opinion. The acting was phenomenal. The writing was great. Everything was perfect besides the first 2 episodes being a bit slow, but everything else was perfect and represents everything I love about House of Cards. So yeah, that's my brief summary. But now this is the moment we've all been waiting for. we're going to get to the spoilers now. So if you're listening to this and you haven't watched the entire season yet, which I'll be surprised about because, I mean, you know, most people binge it nonstop. But yeah, if you haven't watched the entire season yet, then, you know, stop listening here and then come back when you have finished, because now we're going to get to the spoilers. So with that being said, what did you guys think of, you know, the entire election, how they handled it and how it all turned out? So I'll go with you first, Dana.
Well, I thought it was very captivating. It was very brutal. The new cast member, Joel, oh, I'm gonna butcher his name. Miniman, Min, I don't know I'm gonna butcher the name. Anyway, the rival, he was impressive. And that it was oh gosh, I can't even get all of my thoughts together because I'm still going back on it and I'm thinking about it and I'm still like blown away by everything. I think Gary should probably go in so I can like form a sentence.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, like I was saying before, the campaign, it went a lot longer than I thought it would initially, but that's just because, like I said, I thought it was going to be the last season, and I thought this was going to be like an all-out frenzy kind of thing. But it went on, and like you said, Dana, it did kind of parallel the real life elections and stuff, and that it was a circus. So yeah, I mean, I think it was handled really well. They kept the suspense all the way through. I like how they made you believe that there's like no way the Underwoods could prevail. Like, there's
There was no
like when
way.
you felt like there was literally no way, but like somehow they kept finding ways to, defy the odds and stuff. And I really like when they do that. So yeah, and I like the breakdown of what's his name again? I keep forgetting the other guy who was campaigning to be president. I keep forgetting his name. Conway? Yeah,
Will
Conway.
Conway? Yeah, Will Conway. But see,
Yeah.
this is what I love so much about the fact was that from what I was researching and looking, they wrote this way before Trump.
Hmm.
So I don't know what happened or how they was able, or maybe it was just like insiders who already know the back history of how crazy these elections can go. They just let it completely up, loose with this, and I did not see the Underwoods winning at all. And
Yeah.
this guy, Will, was so charismatic for me. And I
Yeah.
just loved everything about him. He seemed to know what to say, what to do. And I viewed him as like this, he was going to win. There was no way that he could not win. And yet the Underwoods prevailed through. And I was happy that they won, obviously, it's the reason why we watch. And it would be kind of if they lost. But to see them win was just like, I kind of was angry because it felt like it was so impossible. And like, I
Yeah.
see
I
like, oh,
mean,
they just magically won at the end. So I was like, I
yeah.
was very angry at that moment. But I also, reflective of what we've seen and what we've gone through with our own election, it's very much possible. So
Yeah,
if you
definitely.
separate
And
that, so I just struggled with it a little bit.
yeah, like what I really liked about it is that you have Conway, and he seems like the white knight, like the savior, like the guy that's he's gonna bring positivity, he's gonna bring change to the White House and everything. And somehow, some way, the Underwoods broke him down to the point where he literally has a breakdown, and that's what really costs him the election, because he starts acting out and stuff. So I like how they were kind of able to, like, take this guy with kind of pure intentions and turn him into the bad guy, essentially, at least to the public. Like they made him seem like a bad guy pretty much. So I liked that aspect of it. Rich, what do you think of the whole campaign?
So let me start off.
I
Well, go ahead. Oh no.
Go ahead, Dana. Dana, say something.
Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say that. Oh, wait.
Yeah. Go ahead. No,
I
continue.
was just okay. No, I was just gonna say that I expected Conway to at first. I didn't know at first if he was gonna be eviler than Frank. You know, that nice guy type of quality, and then when you see who he really is and what he really represents. So I just kind of was disappointed with the whole breakdown situation. But I could understand with the pressures of everything, trying to have this perfect campaign and him just completely losing it. I thought it would have been believable either way. I just didn't expect his character to go the way that it did at all, which was a good thing because that's a surprising element.
Yeah. Go ahead, Rich.
Yeah. So let me start off by saying that first and foremost, I know that there was no way that the writers and the production staff could foretell what was going to happen in our election. But I will say, even though they couldn't foretell that, very, very smart with the storytelling, and I would say even more intelligent with the marketing, because when they released the trailer for this season, it was on Inauguration Day earlier this year. So it's kind of like that was going to get people's attention big time. They already have people's attention because it's a house of cards. So obviously that was the main drawing point. But that was very well done. Now, to get to the actual campaign itself, they did a good job of convincing people that the Underwoods didn't have a chance. Although I knew that, this is the Underwoods. I know that they will do anything to remain in power. They will try and flip people. And I think that the element of showing how corrupt the system is, how people will do whatever they have to do to try and flip something. I thought that was very interesting because I know a lot of that stuff happens today in reality. So I think that the whole thing with the campaign thing, yes, I guess it needed to go on long because it did mimic a lot of what we have experienced. Of course, not the result in the sense that, there is no re-election and all this other stuff. No, you have to wait 4 years for that. But they were able to capture that, and I thought that the campaign was great. Now, I will say this. I was not shocked that the Underwoods won. What shocked me was what happened in the episode before last when Frank decided to resign from the position. Because, again, all of the season, starting from episode 1, they kept putting it out there, Claire, you need to run. Claire, you need to run. All these different characters are telling her, are you sure? It's still time. You should run. So when all that went down, I had no doubt that they were going to win, but I figured, well, something's going to happen with Claire because this happens too often. Every character questioned her about that. So what, of course, as you would expect someone like Frank to do, is if he gets someone that he can use his powers of manipulation. So he had it in his mindset to say, well, if she wins, now I will manipulate her and she will do exactly what needs to be done. And as we saw at the end, no, she did not follow everything he said. So now you have a whole situation where they're going to be at odds with each other moving forward. So in terms of the campaign itself, I thought it was very, very exciting. It was brutal, as you guys said, but I think some of that we needed to see that because we saw similar stuff with Hillary and Trump, a lot of brutal stuff with them as well, So I think that they captured that pretty well. But yeah, you guys made an excellent point about how they broke down Conway because yeah, this is the guy who you expected to get it done, and yet one thing that this show does so well is it shows that every character has a weakness. And that was something that they showed eventually when he had that breakdown, yes. But every character has a weakness. People who were involved with the committee, the guy involved who was leading the committee also had an issue. So that is one thing. Everyone has a secret, they have a weakness, and they can be exposed. And that is one thing that the Underwoods took advantage of every time. So I just think it was excellent throughout. Because a lot of lessons you can learn from this by watching this show.
Yeah, and I mean the whole Frank resigning and stuff, like I think that was like all of his previous actions just catching up to him to the point where like he like there was nothing he could do at that point but resign. And he saw that, you know, because everybody was kind of aligning with Claire, and like Claire is like she's clearly the more likable one, you know, of the two. And I guess he felt like, yeah, if she gets in office, then, you know, he can kind of control things from the background then, because he'll still be in the White House because, you know, he's basically, you know, he's her husband and stuff. So yeah, I felt like that was him, you know, it was like a chess move really, like because he knew that there was like if he continued to push to stay president, it would probably hurt them to the point that Claire wouldn't be able to become president. So, you know, it was a chess move because he felt that he could get more longevity by, you know, passing on the mantle to Claire at that point. So, but it backfired on him, as we know. So yeah, that was definitely an interesting spin there. I really liked how they handled that. Was you gonna say something, Dana?
Yeah, this makes me wonder if Claire plotted this from all the way in the beginning. Because remember when Frank, in the very first episode of the season, when he wasn't chosen as Secretary of State, and it was Claire who gave him that speech saying, "You're better than this. We can do this. You know, no matter what, you're going to go and defeat him. And what is your plan? What is your strategy?" She was always that little whisper in his ear. So my thing is, I always wondered, was she always behind him running and then resigning so that she could take her spot? I wondered like the dynamic, because it's always kind of like a manipulation between both of them. There is
Yeah.
no type of barrier. So
Yeah.
that's my thing. I just wondered if this was Claire's setup from the very beginning. Because by her not saying and going by Frank and doing what he says, and her having that own voice, I don't know if it was, I chose you so that I can get into this position. I don't know if this is some type of revenge thing. Because if you remember, I think in one of the seasons when she wanted to have a kid and that whole thing when she had the affair and she thought about being happy, because she wasn't really happy with Frank. Business thing with Frank. It wasn't like we're going to go and have the White House with the picket fence and the kids. I always wanted it. Deeper with Claire.
Yeah.
Saw a lot of that kind of conflict in.
Well, having internet troubles there, I think. But yeah, like I agree. I mean, Claire's definitely harder to read than Frank is, so she could have definitely been, you know, planning her own manipulation like way early into the season. Like I could definitely see that, you know. And there's that one scene where you know how Frank breaks the fourth wall all the time and he talks to the audience and stuff. Claire doesn't really do that, but then there's that one scene in like the middle of the season where she, you know, she addresses, you know, the audience, and she's like, "I know you're there, yada yada yada," and it's like, you know, that scene is interesting because it's like, okay, maybe she is planning something, you know, maybe she is conscious of all of her actions, and there's, you know, there's something behind all, like everything she does pretty much. So that,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I thought at that point. Like I thought she's planning something. And what I was going to ask though is, you know, we're talking about Claire and, you know, how she becomes the president and she shuts out Frank. So why do you feel it was then necessary to, you know, there's two murders this season, we know that. So one of the murders is Tom, but, you know, and why do you feel it was necessary to kill Tom if she knew that, you know, she was gonna manipulate herself into the White House? Like, what was the reason why she actually killed Tom? Does, does either of you have a thought on that? Because I'm still trying to figure that out personally.
I would like to chime in and say this. I don't know if it was premeditated, so to speak, to that degree. I just feel, again, like you guys mentioned earlier about the chess move that was made. I feel like the situation changed because you have to go to what happened after she killed him, and that was when Frances resigned. And she was the most caught off guard by that move, because normally she would say, well, we should be communicating this stuff, and you didn't communicate this to me. So I don't know if she still planned to get in that way. I mean, there may be more stuff that if we was to go back and watch again, maybe we will find other clues to lead to that theory. But I will say that in terms of Tom getting killed, let me just say this right now. Now, I don't like to see characters get killed. You know, I think life is precious. It's very valuable. But this character, it was portrayed in a very unrealistic, in my opinion. They had this guy as a Casanova, so to speak. He was sleeping with all these women. And I'm like, come on now. Listen, if the guy was attractive, and let me just say right now, I am a 110% heterosexual male. So obviously I don't care about the character, but I'm just saying, get a more attractive looking guy, then I can see, oh, he's whining and dining and sleeping with all these women. But this character, I look at him, I'm like, man, this guy looks like just a rundown bum that doesn't shave. You know, he dresses nice, I guess, to some degree, but it's like, this guy is just totally out of place in the White House to begin with. So
wait, what? I think Dana was saying he looks nice. What was you saying, Dana?
Very funny. No, but I can see. Let me explain something to you. It does not matter how you look. It doesn't matter how you sound. What matters is your position and how much money you have in the bank. And this is a movie about power. And women will view him and have viewed him as someone who has power. And they think that they can go and sleep with him and they can get that power as well. They want to feel like the girlfriend or the side chick or the piece to this man. And that's why he is able to get those women. Has nothing to do with how homeless or bummy he looks.
You're right.
Okay,
At all.
Go ahead, Gary.
No.
I got one question though, like, because you know this will break my heart if it happened, because there was that one scene where like he walked in on Nev Campbell and like she was on the bed or something. So does that mean he smashed Nev Campbell? Because if so, I'll be very mad because I have a crush.
Yeah, you're crushed. Just got crushed.
Say what?
I need to go back and see that because I missed that scene. I missed that scene. That's crazy.
He was with everyone. He was with Nev too.
Yeah, I know he had the little the tour guide as well. That was okay. It's too many women. You say?
Yeah. Oh no, yeah. I mean, yeah. I'm not mad at them getting rid of that character, to be honest. I think he was annoying. And come to think of it, I know because he did leave behind that the book or whatever that he was writing. And I guess that even though it would have hurt Frank a lot more, Claire was also aware of a lot of what, you know, Frank was doing. So it would still hurt her as well because, you know, she knew what was going on and she didn't try to stop it. So I guess that's why she felt he had to go for her grand scheme or whatever.
Yeah, I actually have something to say about that. But Dana, if you wanted to go first, I think I saw you about to say something.
I was just agreeing. I think that anyone who knows anything is going to die. And they will be the last one. I think they will be the last two standing, and they're probably some way Claire will end up killing Frank. That's my overall theory.
Whoa.
Oh, wow.
See, okay, well, so here's what I was going to say. That's a good theory, but here's what I was going to say. I don't think that Tom was 100% upfront with her when he said that she was the only one that had the manuscript. And I think that that's going to come back later in the next season. There was someone else that did have it, you know, because he could have very easily had that as a safety net just in case. something happened and he could use it as a bribe later. Well, once word gets out that he is now dead or missing or whatever, I think whoever he has that. So yeah, I think that's going to happen, because there's no way that, you know, he just had it, and I really think that that's going to come back and bite her.
Yeah, yeah, I could see that happening. So yeah, I wanted to talk about Doug's character, because it's a very important character, and I think he's become even more important considering what's happened, because you know, we know now that there's kind of going to be you know, a war between Frank and Claire to some degree, and I think Doug would be a great asset for Frank to have, because that man will literally do anything for Frank. But there's the fact that they used him as the scapegoat for Zoe's murder. Like, you know, they put all blame onto Doug. And so right now, you know, everyone believes that Doug is responsible for that murder. So he might be hard to get to now. Like, you know, I don't know if Frank's going to be able to use him as a pawn in his game anymore. So Frank's going to have to do some serious maneuvering if he wants to get Doug back on his side. But what do you guys feel about the whole Doug situation, and how will that play out moving forward, do you think? Go ahead, Rich.
So I really like Doug's character. I liked how they showed that character struggling last season with the whole alcoholism stuff, because that showed you that, well, this character has flaws. We didn't really get a sense of that in the first 2 seasons. Mainly, well, I guess you could say he had a flaw for Rachel and the women, but the alcohol was a big thing that he had to deal with. So this season, the character is very loyal. And at the point where they told him about taking the fall, I immediately thought, well, he's going to turn on them as soon as they did that. But of course, he still worked with them to a degree. Now, what you said, Gary, about him trying to work with Frank, that's one thing. But we also have to remember how the season ended, and the fact that Doug was developing this relationship with Leanne, who Frank, you saw he was on the phone. He had her, you know, potentially killed. You know, we don't know if she's killed because we never saw her body. We just saw the car was obviously crashed, you know. So I think if Doug ever finds out about that, then, well, I think he would also turn on Frank. But what I thought was, yeah, the character is too loyal to a fault. And they showed that, because he gave up all this stuff just to try and protect the president. And it definitely is heartbreaking to see that happen, because as someone who's been watching the show since the beginning, you look at these guys, yeah, Doug is his right-hand man. You know, you think that these guys are always, he's the most loyal person to Frank. You would never think that he would do anything to put him in jeopardy, especially after the fact that he told him, yes, I moved you ahead on that list so you can get that transplant. That was why it made it even more shocking to me. Yeah. So see, that to me, why they made it even more shocking to me that he would even come back and say, no, we need you to say that you killed Zoe. That was like, come on, son. You just told him an episode or 2 episodes earlier, I saved your life. And it's like, it was really no gratitude in any of that. So I'll be very interested to see what happens with Doug next season. One thing I will add before Dana says what she said, makes her point. I thought it was also bad the way that lady treated Doug. You know, Moretti's wife, who he was sleeping with, says, "Oh, I knew all along that you did this, that you was involved in this. You know, you didn't get my husband the transplant, and I still was slept with you." So I thought that was pretty fucked up. Because I didn't know if she was like that, but that was some crazy stuff. But again, I like the Doug character. I was hoping that nothing would happen to the character, like the character get killed. I know they had that whole scare of the previous season where you thought something happened to him, but I'm very curious to see what happens to him now, because he literally is caught in the middle, even though he's still loyal to Frank. I feel like that is going to change in next season, because if he finds out Frank has something to do with Leanne, it's a wrap. It's over. But yeah. That's all I was gonna say on that.
Yeah, like because Frank definitely needs some kind of support, and this man was like the most loyal person, so I feel like he's gonna have to work hard to get Doug back on his side. But I feel like what you said about the Leanne thing, I think that might come back to haunt Frank because if Doug finds out it was him, then because I think Frank might try and shift the blame and say that it wasn't him, but um once Doug finds out, he might turn on Frank. I don't know, but how do you feel about Doug, Dana?
Um, okay, so here's my theory. One of two things. Doug should have died back in like season 3 or so when he got beat up in the woods, but he didn't, and he lived, and he remained this incredible loyal servant to Frank. And the whole situation with the liver and not being able to provide his liver because he was an alcoholic and then going around and killing people in order to get the guy bumped up on the list, that shows his loyalty. I think second, the thing is that the second when he realizes that Frank does not care about him, there's no sympathy, there's no anything towards him, no kindness, no caring, he will turn on him, and he could actually be Frank's downfall for this whole thing. He knows too much, he's done too much, and I think that he will become very either revengeful. My hope is that he'll become revengeful. I don't want him being the lapdog to Frank to the end of time and not get anywhere. And so far, he's not getting anywhere. I need to see a shift and a change in him. So I really want that to happen. So far, been that much of a difference. So I'm hoping and we'll see some type of massive change and some switch with him. But I don't know. Don't count him out. I don't see him as being like an underdog for long. He's getting a little upset, and the thing what happened with the wife, that there's really no love in this show, no type of loyalty, and it was kind of like disgusting. I know you killed my husband, but I'm gonna still sleep with you. I don't know if it's for the money or even if it's like a sense of loneliness, because when you're dying, it takes you a long while, and I don't know what was the mindset with that, but I see him as being like this very lonely character who is going to eventually come into his own and maybe have to turn on Frank and maybe go on Claire's side.
Yeah, I could see all those possibilities.
Yeah,
What was you gonna say, Rich?
Oh, sorry.
Oh no, I just was going to say real quick. I have to say this since you brought it up already, Dana. I just want to say this show, and if there's one thing I do want to say about the Underwood characters, is that yes, they are ruthless, but they are also stupid in the actions that they do, because they, I understand that you want to get revenge on certain people. You think you can do certain stuff, but you tell all these people about your business. You have them in all of your corrupt dealings. And then you think that you can just turn on a dime and just say, oh, hey, well, I don't need you anymore. And you just treat them anyway. And then think that there will be no repercussions for your actions. I'm like, come on now, man. They got to be smarter than that. But I will say, I do enjoy seeing the ruthless behavior. I enjoy seeing Frank push the Secretary of State down the stairs. I enjoy when they do stuff, because, and then how they told Frank, when that whole thing with the committee was out there and they said, don't talk to Walker. He said, oh, to hell with that. I'm still talking to Walker, and I want to still talk to the committee as well. It's like wanting to be a badass, and obviously you're still rooting for the character, even though the character is not a good guy at all. It's that is something, to me, that's one of the things that makes the show work. Because even though I would like to dislike the Underwoods, I enjoy them too much, and I enjoy seeing them get in ridiculous situations. So I just wanted to say that.
I just want to also say that revenge is very blinding. So they do stupid things, and yes, they're smart, but I don't think that they realize people will have the nerve to go against them.
Oh yeah, I mean, all the stuff they've done, that's all gonna have consequences. So yeah, nothing that they've done is going to be excused at this point.
And one other thing I will say, I'm not going to venture off topic, but I will just say this: anyone that has seen Alien Covenant yet, this is very similar of the character in that particular movie, a character that is headed for a downfall. So I'm not going to say any spoilers about that because that's a whole nother show. It's not related to this, but obviously the whole thing about there being characters that are arrogant, think they can do whatever they want to do, and yet they also will have to face consequences at some point. This is just how it's going to go down. So I think season 6, there will definitely be consequences for all the actions for both of them, and I'll be curious to see how that ends.
Cool. Yeah. So I'm going to talk about Frank and Claire's direct address, at the end and stuff. So we saw Frank, like, as Claire was giving her speech and everything, we saw Frank talk to the audience, and he said, if she doesn't pardon me, I'm going to kill her. And of course, she doesn't pardon him. And, when he tries to call her afterward, she doesn't answer the phone, and that happens like 2 to 3 times. And the show ends with, Frank looking frustrated, basically. And Claire saying it's my turn. So yeah, that's very powerful right there. So, Frank said the words, if she doesn't pardon me, I'm gonna kill her. So do you feel like Frank's ultimate goal now will be to kill Claire, or do you think he just kind of wants to hold on to power somehow and maybe get back with her to get that power? Like, what do you think his motives are going to be now?
He's already
Go ahead,
killed
Dana.
Claire. He's already killed her with the sense of the hopes and the dreams and being able to be happy. And when she ran off with the other guy in the previous seasons, and she came back to Frank, and he just was like, "Are you done yet?" And she was like, "Yeah, I'm done." She was already dead from that point, and she already, for me, I feel like she already knew that it was her time to take the reins of the life that she is now has, and that she is going to be a leader. And for me, I think that it's completely her time. I don't think that Claire is going to be killed. I think from the very beginning, like I said previously, this is a show about Claire.
Okay,
This
but
whole thing.
do you think he'll try to though?
He's not going to try to kill her. I think that he can do anything in his power to try to destroy her. Yes, I do think that will happen. Will he end up succeeding? No. The one who knows every single part of his true soul, every single death and every manipulation that he's ever done. She knows him more than he knows himself. If you look at the whole arc of their relationship, very strong understanding of each other. Frank seems to be the one who's more out of the loop with everything, and I think that he's going to try as much as he can. Maybe not, maybe physically, he can physically kill her, but other than that, no. I think she will be his ultimate downfall. So even if he tries to attempt to kill her, and even if he succeeds, she's going to reveal every single thing that he's done. At the end of the day, he will ultimately have that downfall that he can't come back from.
It's a real interesting dynamic because it's like both of them can harm each other, kind of, like, because neither one of them can incriminate the other without incriminating themselves as well. So it's a really interesting dynamic, and it's interesting to see how that power shift is going to happen, because if Claire directly tries to incriminate Frank, then she's basically giving up her, she has to resign at that point because she's tied to literally everything he's done. So it's going to be real interesting to see how that's handled, between them. But Rich, you got any thoughts on that?
Okay.
Oh, sorry, Dana, you go ahead.
Their hatred for each other at this point now, I think, cancels that out. So I can see her going down with the ship as well.
Interesting. Okay, go ahead, Rich.
All right, so I can see it now when they have a season 6. If they was to have a poster for season 6, they would have 2 separate posters. One for Team Francis and the other one for Team Claire, because they have pitted them directly against each other. When Frank did make that statement, though, I took that literally as, oh, yes, Frank is going to attempt to kill her multiple times. I do agree that he has killed a lot of the hopes and dreams that she has had for them as a couple. But if there's one thing that we have learned with this particular show, I believe that Frank has gone, he has gone a lot farther than her in the stuff that he has done since the beginning of the show. Killing of course, Zoe, doing whatever is necessary to win. And that is his whole issue. He has this desire to win and will do whatever he needs to do to win. A little bit of this crept into with Will Conway, because this is a guy who was already told, and just imagine you are told, yes, you've won something, and then all of a sudden they renege on that and say, no, you didn't win it. So I can understand why that character went crazy. But again, in that, you also saw his desire to be president and that he wanted it more than anything else. With Frank, he's no longer in the office. He doesn't want to deal with the people. But if there's one thing that he does not want her to be there, especially if he cannot use her to his advantage. So I think he's definitely going to try to take her out multiple ways. Now, there's no way, if, again, as you said, they are connected to each other. So it is a very interesting situation to see how he think he can clear himself. But I just think it's going to be a situation where they do both go down in the end. But I have no doubt Frankie is going to try to do what he can do to make sure her time is cut short. But either way, it's not going to be a good ending for either one of them.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
even
I
if
mean,
her time is cut short, I do see her being able to bounce back. I can't picture Frank bouncing back at all.
This is true
yeah,
because he does have the transplant, and they did make that comment about, well, that can go out at any time. So yeah, you are right, because Claire is not as damaged as him. I mean, by association, she is, but Frank has done a lot of worse stuff. But
he's like all of the heavy lifting while Claire's been off to the side.
yes.
Remember that whole comment that she made with, I see you there watching?
Oh yeah.
So she knows what's going on. But she's basically, I view her as the Shades. Remember in Luke Cage?
Yes.
Remember
Yep.
Shades? Nobody paid attention to Shades. He was always there, but we didn't look. The same thing goes with Claire. She knows that everyone's there watching. Yeah, she's not always there, but she knows everything. And she has way more in this stakes in this than anybody else does. He's the main character, but she's the one taking over everything.
Yeah. Yes. These are very good points. And one other thing to add is that this is a character that went through a complete transformation this season. It's a character that has always, we've seen bits and pieces of her, be angry and corrupt toward the situation. But I would say the minute she killed Tom, though, to me, that was the character completely going over to the side of her husband in terms of the actions that she's capable of doing. So that's why I said, they refer to the Underwoods as a monsters. I think that Claire has elevated herself to that status without question because of the way she handled Tom. And of course, we'll see what happens as a result of that moving forward. But yeah, it's going to be a very interesting next season, because again, they're pitted against each other, and as you both have already said, if one goes down, the other one is going to go down too, one way or another. Because I know Frank is someone who has a desire to win and to get it done, and if he does not win, I'm pretty sure he's going to try to take her down with him. So we'll see what happens.
yeah, definitely. Yeah. There's so many ways it can go, man. Like, I can see Frank maybe trying to, rekindle and, get back on good terms with Claire, because if he wants power, that's probably the best solution for him, to just, take the hit and kind of, be on Claire's good side, and then try and, manipulate things from the husband role. But I don't think that's gonna go too far, because there's gonna be points where, because Claire is the president, she's gonna, there's gonna be conflicts. She's gonna refuse to do certain things that he wants to do and such. So yeah, I think it's at a certain point, he's not gonna like it. He's not gonna like being second in command or whatever in the relationship. So that's where I definitely see the cracks coming in, and I feel like that's where things are going to get interesting, and whether he tries to kill her, or make her resign or whatever, like bring up her crimes or whatever. It's going to be interesting to see it from whenever that happens. But yeah, season 6 is definitely going to be interesting. But as for season 5, was there anything else you guys wanted to touch on at all? Like, any final thoughts on the season, spoiler wise?
I'll let Dana go first.
Oh, I was waiting for Richard. um, oh gosh, no, but I don't know. Somehow I kind of felt like the ghost of Zoe Barnes should have showed up somehow. Zoe should have been made a mention to or alluded to. Weirdest
I
way,
mean,
I don't think that she's dead. I mean, I know she's dead, but I don't. I mean, I think she's gonna come back, and not physically, but somehow her whole storyline is gonna come back up, and is gonna
yeah, I
also.
mean, that is another point that I forgot to mention, that guy, her boss, Zoe's boss, he's
Yeah,
still kind of investigating that. So, he could still
I
find out
think
what really
Zoe is
happened.
gonna come back. That storyline is gonna pop back up, and you're gonna finally realize what really happened to her. Remember when they couldn't get the angle, and so it made it look like she just jumped in
Yeah.
front of the train. I think somebody was filming. Maybe Claire has someone working undercover, always following Frank. But I think the true video is gonna show up somewhere. And just when we go back, remember that manuscript? I think that the manuscript, no one sits and writes a manuscript and only has one copy. That's not possible, especially not in today's time. I think a lot of different things is going to happen. And I think Zoe is going to come back, that whole storyline, because he's not giving up.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible that Tom knew the danger he was in, so I definitely think
Tom
he could have
knows.
made copies and
To me, I
sent
think
it to
Tom
people.
knows everything.
Yeah,
So
yeah, for sure. Rich, what do you think?
Yeah, I just think, as I said, it was an excellent season. There's a lot that was left open. We still need to find out what's going on with Leanne. We know that the other person you mentioned, there were two murders. The other person that did get murdered was the guy she was working with, Aiden, who, once again, another example of a character that did what they had to do to help the president. And how was that favor returned? Well, they still didn't really allude to who shot him either. And that was something I was trying to figure out, because the other lady had the gun, but how did she get the gun? Did she
Yeah,
hire somebody to shoot that guy? I mean, that was something where I think a lot of that stuff was not really made clear. So I don't really know how that character got killed. Well, I know how he got killed. I just don't know who did it. So I think some of those questions maybe may get answered. I feel like there's a lot that can get answered in terms of what really, really happened with some of this stuff. I just have no idea, because now the focal point is on Claire and Francis and how he is going to try to get back at her, vice versa. So, and I guess there's still a lot of things to really answer to. But I thought the season was fantastic, and as Dana has said about the Zoe storyline coming back, yeah, that's I don't think that's ever going to finish. You know, this is the next season is the final season. Then I think it'll finally get resolved, because it took them long enough to try and get that. But I must admit that Tom Hammersmith, that's the boss that she had. Um, I guess it will be good to see him triumph in this case, but there's a part of me that does not want to see him get what he wants, because this is another character where I look at him and like, you know, this is I will do whatever to get the story. It's like this is what they really hit home well with all the writing, everything. The desperate nature of somebody who will do whatever they need to do to get what they want, even go above and beyond what you think they would do just to get what they need to get to put a stop to something. So I'm curious to see how they're going to handle this stuff moving forward. But excellent season, and I'll be very curious to see what the future holds for all the characters.
For sure, yeah. We're definitely interested to hear the thoughts of you guys, everyone listening. But yeah, for now, that's our thoughts on House of Cards season 5. Excellent season. Definitely, yeah. I mean, if you're listening still, you would have already watched it, so I don't need to tell you to go watch it. But yeah, amazing season. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Once again, it was a very great season, a very great acting from every single person, and a really great script. And I just loved how there is this incredible talent that's out there, and Netflix seems to keep producing all these wonderful hidden gems, and they're finally getting the recognition that they deserve. And I want this to win an Emmy for everyone.
Would you say House of Cards is the best Netflix original series?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Actually, yeah.
I would have to say hands down it is, yeah, like because the writing is just on another level. But what would you say, Rich?
And it's very realistic to the actual, what's going on behind DC.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. You know, a lot of people, maybe some people may not want to admit it, but they like the juicy gossip. They like the inner workings of some of these situations. I'll be the first to admit, I used to watch a show called Love and Hip Hop because I wanted to see how ratchet and ridiculous some of these people operate. So with this show, yes, people want to know what's going on behind closed doors, and obviously some of this stuff is actually going on in real life. But I think that is one of the drawing factors of the show. But again, when they show the humanity of the situation and how characters transform and how they will do whatever they need to do to get the job done, that really hits home with the whole concept. So I definitely think it is one of the best shows on Netflix. Probably the best show, just because of the cast, the people involved, and the writing, all of that stuff that you both have already said. So definitely looking forward to seeing what happens next season. And if anybody is still watching this and hasn't seen season 5, well, first and foremost, you should not have been watching past the spoiler discussion. You need to watch right now, though. But I'm definitely curious to hear what your thoughts are. So everyone, please leave your comments on what you thought of the season, whether or not you agree or disagree with some of the stuff that we've said. And definitely look forward to doing more of these in the future.
And can I just also add that it's one of the best adapted series? Watch the original House of Cards. It's a British show.
Yeah, very true.
This is far superior. It's one of the few where you have the adaptation is better than the original. Watch the original and then watch this House of Cards and see how you like the two. Always know what you're dealing with the original one. And I think it's a wonderful take on these characters. They're just as vicious and just as evil and manipulative, but this the American version is done with such a twist that it's just. So I just want to say that as well. It's very rare to find
an
adaptation better than the original.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, as the British guy, I feel like it's you know, my I feel like I have to stand up for the British version, but I really can't. I can't do it. I can't do it. Like, cause yeah, like this House of Cards, the Netflix one is incredible. So yeah, I can't even stand up for the British one.
No, the British one is just, it's rubbish compared to this.
Oh, whoa, So
That actually sounded legit. That was
so
legit.
so
I can give you props.
so I have a real quick question. This is slightly off topic. So The Office, is the British version better than the one that used to come on, or would you say no, it's not?
The
The
British
British one
version is best. Yeah,
Okay.
that's the British one
best.
is best for
Ouch.
sure.
That hurts.
Superior. All British, like I love British television. I love everything about it. But this is the only one where we have you guys beat. Sorry. Just
Ouch.
America
Yeah,
did it.
I can't argue that.
Finally,
All right, so
you can't argue. We're really good at it. Deal with it.
Oh, another funny tidbit. Did you guys see that President Putin, the president of Russia, he actually said that he thought House of Cards was a documentary of American politics. That's hilarious.
I didn't know that.
That's funny.
I don't know if he was being funny when he said that, or you know, if he was being serious, but that just goes to show that, you know, this show is kind of authentic in some way, I guess. So yeah, that's funny. But yeah, we're gonna get out of here. Shouts to Netflix for providing us early access to the show. We appreciate it. And yeah, look out for more show reviews like this in the future. But we're out. Peace out.